All right, as we move along here, our next topic is frames of reference. Before we get into that, I just want to do a quick reminder of what we were talking about in the last video clip, which was space-time diagrams. So remember, the idea here is that we're just looking at motion along the x-axis, just in one dimension here, and we're recording certain events, perhaps flashes of light or just some moving object as it goes along. We're recording it at certain times, certain locations in the x direction, whether it's positive to the right, negative to the left. And then we had the idea of actually plotting this with time as a vertical axis. So again, if you think about horizontal slices here, the x-axis as drawn is what the x-axis looks like at t equals 0 seconds. And then we'd have another slice at t equal 1 second, t equal 2 seconds, 3 seconds, and 4 seconds, and so on and so forth with that. So if we were to imagine, let's imagine a situation where we have an object moving, and we're taking flash photographs of it and recording the position at given times, and we'll just pretend, say, at t equals 1 second, it was at position 1 along the x-axis, and so we put a dot there, a mark there. And maybe at 2 seconds, we saw that it is actually at position 2 along the x-axis. And at 3 seconds was position 3, and so on and so forth with that, if I can draw that more or less correctly there. And we also talked about the concept then of a velocity, that we can actually draw a line through these plotted points if we wanted to. And the velocity of an object when we do this plot is essentially distance traveled over elapsed time. So the distance traveled, sometimes we call this the run along the horizontal direction, the distance traveled divided by the elapsed time. So in this case, if I traveled 3 units, maybe 3 meters in 3 seconds, clearly the velocity would be 1 meter per second, 3 divided by 3. And so the slope of this line gives us an indication of the velocity. Now, technically, the slope is not exactly equal to the velocity, because let's look at another situation here. Let's say that in 1 second, it only went half a meter. And so in 1 second, it'd be right here. And then in 2 seconds, it was at 1 meter. And at 3 seconds, it was at 1.5 meters. So it's going at steady velocity there, a half meter per second. We can pretty much see that. Draw the line here. And that represents a different path for perhaps a different object, or the same object second time around going at a different speed. And we see here that in the first case, it was going 1 meter per second. In the second case, it's going half a meter per second. So we can see that when the slope is higher, a higher slope, larger number for the slope, more vertical line, is slower velocity, a lower velocity. Versus if the slope of the line is lower, then we get a higher velocity. So when we do this type of plot, this type of space-time diagram with time being vertical, x being horizontal, the velocity, if we have a constant velocity object, we get a plot of it, and it's going to be a straight line. And the slope of that line is inversely related to the velocity. Okay? So large slope, which means it's more closer to the vertical, means a slower velocity. Smaller slope means it's closer to the horizontal, gives us a larger velocity. And intuitively, you can think about it just by thinking about what we're plotting here. Again, if in 1 second, so if I go up 1 second vertically, I move 5 meters, that would be a slope sort of like this, like that. And that's going to be a higher velocity. I've moved a larger distance in a given amount of time versus one of these other examples here. I've only moved 1 meter in 1 second, or even half a meter in 1 second. Slope of those lines is more vertical, and therefore a slower velocity. Just something to keep in mind, because when we do this later on and actually apply relativistic effects to these types of diagrams, it'll be important to remember that higher slopes, larger slopes, more vertical slopes means slower velocity. And as you bend down this way, it represents a higher velocity object. Again, everything being constant velocity here. We're not going to deal with cases of acceleration. If you do acceleration, so the velocity is changing on an object, you get curved lines going in various directions, not straight lines like that. So just a reminder about space-time diagrams, again, everything is in the physical reality here is in the x direction, the horizontal direction. We're just plotting things along the x direction. The actual physical reality is not objects moving at some angle here, but just moving along the x direction. We're plotting their position in time, and therefore we get these straight lines representing different velocities as they travel along the x direction. Okay, so that's a little reminder about space-time diagrams. We're going to do some more of these in this video clip on frames of reference. But let's get to that. And I want to remind you, too, that I hope you did the little priming the brain exercise with the moving sidewalks and all that. We're actually going to really do that same sort of concept. Instead of moving sidewalks, we're going to use spaceships here. So let's imagine that we have the classic use of names here is Alice and Bob. They also use these things in cryptography. Alice and Bob sending messages back and forth to each other encrypted. Comes probably from A and B. Okay? So instead of just saying person A, person B, we give them names Alice and Bob. And if you don't like the names Alice and Bob, you can use your own names here if you want. So we've got Alice and Bob, and they're in spaceships. So each of them has their own spaceship. And let's consider Alice first. Okay? So I actually have Alice here and her spaceship. And what do these circles represent? Those circles are clocks. We talked about how to record events in space and time. We need essentially a measuring system and clocks at each of those points on our measuring system to measure time. Essentially, we have a lattice or a grid of clocks. So that's what this is supposed to represent here, this nice little stick with Alice's spaceship, A for Alice, of course, and the clocks along here. So as far as Alice is concerned, we'll just start off with her at rest. And she has all her clocks set up there. And so she can record any event that occurs along her horizontal axis here. So there's Alice. And now let's bring Bob into the picture. So Bob will have an orange spaceship here. And we can imagine that Bob is flying by Alice like that. She's just at rest. Bob flies by, and perhaps as he flies by each of her clocks, her stationary clocks, and remember, I should have mentioned, they're synchronized clocks. So all of Alice's clocks here record the same time. They're not out of whack or anything like that. As far as she's concerned, everything is good. So as Bob flies by, then we can see that perhaps as he triggers some sort of photograph for each clock, and so the record of his flyby past Alice here can be recorded on each of her clocks, and then she can go back later and say, okay, at t equals 3.2 seconds, he passed this clock right here, and then later on he was passing this clock here at t equals 8.9 seconds or something like that. And from that, she could figure out what his velocity is passing by her. So let's pause there for a second and actually do a space-time diagram of just Bob flying by Alice and her clocks here. So if we do that, we'll say, okay, so here's our space-time diagram. And by the way, we will nearly always assume, unless specified otherwise, that when they're together right here, that's t equals 0. Okay? So we can imagine he's coming in here, and they set their clocks. There's a clock on Alice's spaceship as well, not shown. So she has a clock at each point along her axis here. And so right here is t equals 0, and then as he goes along here, Alice's clocks measure his position at those times. So we'll always assume that when we're talking about Alice and Bob, their clocks are synchronized. Bob has a clock on his spaceship. She has a clock on her spaceship. They're all synchronized at t equals 0. So often we'll be starting at our point t equals 0 here. So this will be time for Alice and position for Alice as Bob flies along. And we want to plot Bob's path through Alice's space, as it were. So at t equals 0, they're right together. Again, right here, we'll start our clocks right here at t equals 0, and then as Bob goes on, the various clocks will record Bob's position. And remember, all these are synchronized, so maybe when right here he's at time t equals 1, so all Alice's clocks would read t equals 1 at that point, according to her. and then t equals 2, perhaps here, t equals 3, t equals 4, t equals 5. So what we get is, we'll use red a little bit here, so let's put some tick marks in, like that. So position 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and some times 1, 2, 3, 4, perhaps. So this is what Alice would record. Alice would record, again, we'll just say at time t equals 1, Bob was at position 1, clock number 1 there. So right here, I guess we'll put it in red. I've been using red here. At t equals 2, he's in position 2. T equals 2, position 2. T equals 3, position 3, and so on and so forth. And again, assuming constant velocity, we get a line. If we did more recordings of all his positions, we get that line representing a certain velocity. In this case, 1 meter per second, perhaps, or something like that. Whatever our units happen to be. Maybe 1 mile an hour, or 1 light year per hour per second, something like that. So there is his, by the way, we'll talk about light years a little later on in the course. You've probably heard that term. You may be a little fuzzy on exactly what it means, so don't worry about it for the moment. So just constant velocity for Bob here. And this is what Alice would observe. And just to sort of jump ahead in terms of what we're talking about here in terms of frames of reference, this is Alice's frame of reference. Alice's frame of reference is her sitting there with her clocks. As far as she's concerned, she's not moving. She can see all of her clocks in a line there. They have photo recording devices, so anytime something goes by and she needs to record an event at that location, she'll have a record of that at that clock. And she's watching Bob fly by here. So this is Alice's frame of reference, and Bob is traveling through Alice's frame of reference. And so Alice is plotting Bob's path through that. And so it's at 1 second he was at position 1, at 2 seconds he was at position 2, 3 seconds he's at position 3, and so on and so forth. And we indicate this is Alice's frame of reference, Alice's perspective, because we're saying here TA, T sub A, and X sub A. These are Alice's measurements of Bob's flight through her frame of reference. But we could also ask, well, what about Bob? What's he observing? If we're out there in space, there are no other reference points, we'll say, nearby. So as far as Bob is concerned, to Alice, Bob is flying by this way. To Bob, it's actually Alice who's moving that way. He sees her receding behind him. And so we could also ask, what would this be like in Bob's frame of reference? And in fact, just to make it a little clearer, Bob has his own lattice of clocks, which he can record anything in his frame of reference along the x direction, and each clock represents the time for him. All his clocks are synchronized. All Alice's clocks are synchronized. A little later on, next week, we'll see that that was one of Einstein's key insights, that Alice's synchronized clocks in this case, Bob has his synchronized clocks, but as far as Bob is concerned, Alice's are not synchronized, and also Bob's are not synchronized to Alice. But that's jumping ahead a little bit. We need to make sure we understand how these frames of reference work, because even though the idea is fairly simple, in my experience, I find that later on it can cause some confusion, like I've said before, if you don't get these foundational issues down solid. So, again, Alice sees Bob flying by. Bob, from his perspective, sees Alice receding, really flying by backwards, if you want to put it like that. And he can record Alice's path with all his clocks. And again, they're synchronized for him. Alice's clocks are synchronized for her. So if he did that, what type of diagram would he see here? Well, let's draw another one over here. And we'll label this T sub B, because this is Bob's perspective, Bob's frame of reference. And this is X sub B. And actually, in this case, we need it more, some negative values here, but we'll put these in. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, -1, -2, and now we're running into Alice's plot there. And then the time again, 1, 2, 3, well, more or less. You see I've got different scales here, but we'll assume it's the same. Doesn't really matter for our point here, because plotting Bob, then he sees Alice, plotting Bob's perspective. Okay, remember, from Alice's perspective, at time t equals 1, he was at position 1. Time t equals 2, he was at position 2. For this simple example, we'll assume it works the same way for Bob. So he sees Alice at t equals 1. He sees Alice at his negative 1 position, and then negative 2 position, negative 3 position, and so on and so forth. And so we get something like this. At t equals 1, he sees Alice right there. And at t equals 2, he sees Alice here. And so, again, if we continued on, we get a line going like that. In other words, it's just pointing in different directions. It points to the left. This one points to the right because, as far as Alice is concerned, Bob is moving to the right. As far as Bob is concerned, Alice is moving to the left. And just to indicate this is Alice from Bob's perspective, from his frame of reference. And this is Bob from Alice's perspective. One moves to the left, one moves to the right. And the whole concept here of a frame of reference is that neither could tell which is really moving and which is stationary. Really the whole concept of the principle of relativity that we're working our way towards here, and we'll get to very soon, not quite in this video clip, but coming up in a couple video clips here, we'll talk more about that. But we can already see hints or indications of the principle of relativity here, that if you're out there in outer space, there in their two spaceships, there are no other reference points around, one can't tell where the other is moving. And perhaps you've had that experience. You've ever, say, been on a train or even a car, perhaps, where there's another train or car next to you, and the road is very smooth, the tracks are very smooth, and so you see movement, and you're not sure, are you moving, or is the other train moving? And it can be disconcerting there for a minute. But that's really the key concept of the principle of relativity. Alice and Bob, Alice sees Bob moving, Bob sees Alice moving. As far as Bob is concerned, he's stationary. As far as Alice is concerned, she's stationary as well. So this is the frame of reference concept. The frame of reference is the perspective of a stationary observer like Alice or Bob with their frame of clocks. And so this is Alice's frame of reference. This is Bob's frame of reference with his lattice of clocks, synchronized clocks. And the whole idea here that we'll explore more as we go along in the course is some of the surprising results of the fact that even though it seems like if Bob's clocks are synchronized and Alice's clocks are synchronized, they should see things the same. In actual fact, they don't see things the same because of some surprising results due to the speed of light, as Einstein was really the first to understand that.